Supporting brown business. Man, today, real quick side note, this weekend I was bodyguarding a vato from a neighborhood that our neighborhood still go at it today, and he hired me to protect him. So I just want to tell you, young men and women out there that are gangbanging or doing crazy things in the streets, some of these people could become people you work with, people you become families with. So don't take it too serious because everything is temporary and you'll never know who will be there. And it's sad to say, and a lot of people can attest to this, but I get more love from some of my enemies than I get from my own people. Isn't that sad? But it's also beautiful, right? It's a beautiful struggle, like Lefty says. That was a homegirl that was watching the podcast with me. So we're watching the podcast, enjoying ourselves, like, any little brown couple, little couple watching, this Chicano culture at night. That's one thing I like that we have, though. We have like some kind of like culture now to go watch podcasters, fighters, singers, dancers, all this. But now we need to bring it together. We're watching this, and you can see that it's starting to go left because Lefty can't get right. And you can tell that it's two people's ego. Well, I want to talk a lot about ego. I want to talk about ego, people. Edging God out. Ego. Our ego, for me, my ego is what still gets me in trouble. I almost crashed out on this a fellow security guard this weekend because he asked a couple questions that I thought were inappropriate. Now I still think they're inappropriate, but I didn't need to crash out. And I didn't crash out, but I almost did. Even when I just crash out a little bit, that it hurts me more than it hurts the people I crash out on. But also that at least I'm not crashing out as much as I used to at the higher levels. And I gotta be grateful for that. So anybody dealing with anger issues, holler at your boy. You can DM me at official_Pocho1, meta verified. My full name is there. DM me. Back to Headstock. So they're talking over each other. You can tell they're starting to drink. Egos are involved. One thing, some of the guidance I would give Lucky, and it's cool to have the boys there again. I actually like Droops, I think his name is. Shout out to him. But having a bunch of people in the background, the artists, you should always just bring one person with you. Your lady, your manager. If Lefty came with a bunch of homies, he should have just came with Solus. Whoever's working the podcast and the boards, whoever's the talent, and that's it. They had homies in there. They had Bozo. It became a Southside party, and you know how those end. They don't end well usually. It goes on and goes on. And one thing that what you also shouldn't do too much is have breaks, because what happens, I don't know if you've ever worked out or you've done something where you're doing it, or you're like even working in the yard and you stop working in the yard and you got to get back into it. You got to get back into the vibe. So when you're podcasting, try to podcast all the way through and be done with, because when you try to go back and see, you think it's good because you need a little break, but the reality is you're never the same kind of. You don't have that same, especially if you have a good vibe going. And then with another problem I would say is that you introduce alcohol to a bunch of fools that don't know how to drink. These fools don't know how to drink, dog. They do not know how to drink. You know what I mean? And so they don't know how to podcast and they don't know how to drink. And that's another problem about a lot of these vatos not being trained in podcasting or being trained in any of this. They're wilding out, and that's what makes them popular. But what also makes them have the same sponsors. You got to look at what these guys have. They have tattoo artists. They have marijuana brands. They have the same kind of sponsors. That honey pack stuff. I mean, Viagra, selling that to young people. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but let's be honest, bro. Like, he might get all these views and all this stuff, but in 6 years, how many, like, no major corporate sponsors, no major corporate anything, right? And that's because these vatos think that they go on their first thing. Chicano rap artists, that's what they did. They went for their first thing they knew to do is to talk about gangbanging and their lifestyle, which is cool, but most people can't relate, Lucky.